Hey guys! Tonight we slip quietly into the steam-thick shadows of a medieval bathhouse. Outside, the night air is sharp and cold. But in here it's different. It's warm, heavy. The kind of warmth that wraps around your shoulders like a wool cloak pulled straight from a hearth. You hear the soft splash of water long before you see the bath itself. Laughter echoes off stone walls, muffled by fog. Someone is whispering a story you can't quite catch. And the air? It smells of wet wood, crushed herbs, and smoke curling from fire-heated stones. You press your hand to the door. It's damp to the touch. And when you push it open, a wave of heat rolls over you like a sigh. Inside, the world slows down. The steam carries secrets. The kind whispered over hot water and half-closed eyes. This is not a place for haste. It's a place for shedding layers. Of clothing. Of dirt. And maybe of pride. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take a slow step forward. The wooden floor creaks beneath your damp soles. The light is soft and flickering, candles only, no glass windows here. Just firelight reflecting off bodies and water. People sit shoulder to shoulder in the wide central bath. Some talk in low tones. Others rest their heads against the stone edge, eyes closed. One man pours hot water over his head from a clay jug, sighing like it's the first breath he's taken all week. You find an empty space and slip in. The heat bites, then soothes. It seeps into your bones, into the quiet places. The water is cloudy from oils and ash, but it feels healing. In its own strange way. In towns across Europe, these bathhouses were common. Not fancy, not hidden, just a part of life. A place where merchants and mothers, pilgrims and bakers all came to soak and reset. Some bathhouses had steam rooms above the main pool, heated from below by stone furnaces. Others had only the bath and a side room where someone, for a few coins, might rub your back with scented oil or scrape your skin with a curved bronze blade. You lean back and listen. A woman is listing the week's gossip, carefully avoiding names. A boy jokes about a shoemaker slipping into the women's side by mistake. An older man hums a hymn, his voice gravelly but oddly calming. No one rushes here. You stay until the skin on your fingers puckers like fruit left too long in the sun. And still, you don't want to leave. Church leaders often looked at bathhouses with raised eyebrows. Not because of the hygiene, but because of the laughter, the closeness, and the things that sometimes happened after the water cooled. Historians still argue whether these places were symbols of public health or quiet indulgence. But for most people, it was simple. At home, water had to be hauled and heated by hand. Here, it was already waiting, and warm. You open your eyes. The steam is thicker now, the room quieter, the candles burn lower, and for a moment it feels like time has stopped. You rise slowly. Your body feels light, as if part of you stayed behind in the water. You dry off with a rough linen cloth. It smells faintly of time. Someone else has used it before you. You try not to think about that too much. And when you step outside into the cold again, you don't shiver. Not right away. You carry the warmth with you, tucked beneath your skin, like a secret, or a memory that hasn't happened yet. The wind outside bites harder now, but you barely feel it. The bathhouse still clings to your skin like a second layer of warmth that hasn't quite let go. Your feet crunch softly over gravel and straw, and the chill of night presses in around the edges of your cloak. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You keep walking, because tonight we're not done. Not yet. You take a narrow path that winds past shuttered houses. A few glow faintly through their cracks. A flickering candle. A dim fire holding on through the dark. You pass a barrel by a doorstep. It's full of rainwater and floating soap root. A poor man's attempt at hygiene, when the bathhouse was too far or too full. Inside one of these homes, a woman kneels over a steaming bucket. She's washing her baby with cloth strips soaked in warm water and dried rosemary. Not exactly glamorous, but cleaner than most. Because for all the steamy bathhouses and grand Roman leftovers, the truth is, most people in the Middle Ages didn't bathe as often as we'd like to imagine, especially not in winter. Water was hard to haul, harder to heat, and even harder to keep clean once the first person stepped in. You duck under a low stone arch and enter the market square. It's empty now, but earlier, there were stalls with tallow soap, wool cloth, carved combs, and bundles of dried herbs. Even cleanliness had an economy, and it wasn't cheap. Soap, for instance, wasn't the stuff of gentle lavender and fluffy suds. It was harsh, often made from animal fat and wood ash. Rubbed on hard, it could strip away grime, and maybe a layer of skin with it. You pause beside a trough once used for washing vegetables. Now it's frozen over. Someone's left a cracked jug beside it. A reminder, in many towns, communal water meant communal rules. Some cities even had regulations about when and where you could wash, and fines if you emptied a tub into the wrong alley. Public fountains were prized, but not for their beauty. They meant access to clean water, to dignity, to the chance to rinse away the weak. You step into a narrow alley that runs between two buildings. Laundry hangs from windows above, frozen stiff like thin, fluttering flags, shirts, undergarments, and cloth napkins. Most have been beaten against rocks, rinsed in streams, and hung to dry in the wind. And yet, they're cleaner than you expected. People in the Middle Ages weren't filthy by choice. They adapted. They found ways. They reused rainwater, collected dew, heated stones to warm footbaths. They used ash, herbs, vinegar, even stale beer to cleanse. Historians still debate how often the average person washed. Some argue peasants barely cleaned themselves all winter. Others believe they washed more often than nobles, simply because they worked outdoors and needed to. You stop near a cottage window and glance in. A man is scraping dirt from under his nails with the edge of a knife. His feet soak in a shallow basin of warm water. No ceremony, no bath salts, but he looks relaxed, quietly proud of this small act of care. And really, that was hygiene in the Middle Ages. Not glamorous, not luxurious, but deliberate, earned, sometimes painful, sometimes clever. You take one last look at the frozen laundry, the cracked soap dish, the flickering hearth light behind glass too old to be clear, and you walk on, because tonight we're still not done. There's more to see, more to clean, more to question. You follow a curve in the path where the wind softens and the smells begin to change. Gone is the cold scent of ash and wool. Now it's damp earth, moss, and something faintly medicinal. Ahead of you, tucked between two crumbling stone walls, is a small garden patch. But it's not for vegetables. It's a herb garden. Fragrant, cluttered, half-wild, and entirely essential. In the Middle Ages, cleaning wasn't just water and soap. It was ritual. It was scent. It was survival. And herbs? They were your toolkit. You kneel beside a cluster of dried lavender, still holding its color even in the frost. Next to it, sprigs of rosemary, sage, and mint, bunched tightly and tied with frayed string. Midwives used these for everything. To soothe skin, mask odors, cleanse wounds, and brew footbaths. You pluck a leaf of sage and rub it between your fingers. The scent is sharp, almost peppery. This wasn't just folk tradition, this was necessity. Herbs weren't just for flavor. They were protection. From filth, from infection, from whatever nameless things festered in dirty water and unwashed linens. You pass under a wooden awning draped with drying bundles. A small wooden tub sits nearby, filled with hot water and herbs steeping like tea. A woman dips a cloth in and gently washes her face. Steam curls from the basin. Her eyes close as she presses the cloth to her cheeks. It's quiet, almost sacred. You take a breath. Even the air feels cleaner here. Not because it's pure, but because it's been prepared. Herbal baths were common in wealthier homes, but even the poor found ways. A handful of crushed mint in a bucket. Chamomile boiled with cloth strips for compresses. Even stinging nettle, carefully prepared, could be used to stimulate the skin. Of course, some ideas were less scientific, like hanging bundles of garlic by the door to ward off disease, or washing with wine if water was scarce. One record even mentions a bath steeped in pigeon droppings, though historians still argue whether that was for the skin or for show. You step into a narrow room off the garden, part shed, part apothecary. Jars line the shelves, each with hand-scratched labels: lye, rosewater, vinegar, alum. A bowl on the table holds a lump of lard mixed with ash, homemade soap. It smells awful, but it works. And nearby, tucked in a cloth pouch, is a prized possession, a comb made of boxwood, used not just for styling, but for scraping lice, dirt, and dried oil from hair. Hair care was an entire ritual in itself. Not everyone shaved it off. Some oiled it with goose fat. Others powdered it with dried petals. Braiding, binding, covering, it all served the same purpose: control. Because a clean head meant fewer fleas, and fewer fleas meant a better night's sleep. You glance at the stone bench by the doorway. A young boy sits there, his mother gently pulling a comb through his hair. He winces. She shushes. A slow rhythm, tug and soothe, tug and soothe. It's not glamorous, but it's care, it's connection, and it smells like lavender and smoke. You step out of the room back into the cool night. Above, a sliver of moonlight catches the tops of the drying herbs. And for a moment, this place feels almost timeless. Because even in a world with no running water, no toothpaste, no shower gel, people still found ways to feel clean, to feel human. And sometimes that meant steeping nettles in a bucket, or trusting in rosemary when the rivers ran foul. You smile, and keep walking. The ground beneath your feet shifts. Less gravel now, more mud. A narrow path leads downhill toward the river. You feel the cold creep back in around your ankles, but your steps are steady. Because this too was part of staying clean. Sort of. The river was the town's lifeblood. And its garbage chute, a place where people washed their clothes, their tools, their hands, and sometimes, reluctantly, themselves. You hear it before you see it. The slow, sloshing lap of dark water against stone. No moon tonight, so the surface looks like oil, thick and endless. You pause beside a mossy rock and watch. A man stands waist deep, scrubbing something vigorously against a board. It might be a tunic. It might be a bedsheet. Whatever it is, he's working it like it owes him money. Behind him, a child tosses pebbles into the shallows. And on the far bank, someone set out jugs to collect water for the morning. Not for drinking. Let's not get carried away. For rinsing. Maybe for soaking feet. Drinking water came from safer places, hopefully. Because as useful as rivers were, they were also questionable. Especially downstream. Tanners dumped waste here. So did butchers. So did pretty much everyone who needed to make something disappear. Still, you couldn't avoid it. Water was water. And sometimes it came with a side of risk. You step carefully down to a wooden platform that juts over the bank. It creaks under your weight. A woman nearby is wringing out linens. She glances at you but doesn't speak. Her hands are red from the cold. The water's turned to slush near the edges. But she keeps going, rhythmically twisting the cloth, then hanging it over the rail to freeze into stiff white sheets. You spot a small tin cup floating in the reeds. Probably used to scoop water. Maybe rinsed out between uses. Maybe not. Some households had barrels they filled with river water, letting the dirt settle before using it. Others filtered it through cloth. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than nothing. You take a few more steps along the river path. Up ahead is the public latrine. You almost wish you hadn't noticed. A stone structure, half collapsed, perched right above the waterline. Yes, that's exactly what you think it is. Gravity did the rest. Historians still argue whether this was ignorance or efficiency. Some say people knew it was a bad idea. Others believe they just didn't have better options. You look away. Instead, you turn your eyes toward the wooden washing paddles, stacked neatly by a bundle of rushes, used to beat clothes clean. Or punish them, really. It was loud, tiring, but satisfying in a strange way. There's something grounding about the rhythm of it. Strike, rinse, ring, repeat, and that rhythm continues even now. You pass another cluster of figures bent over buckets. Someone is pouring ash into water, making lye a harsh cleaner that burned if misused. A boy coughs. His sister swats at his nose with a cloth soaked in vinegar. She's smiling, because even this messy, muddy, freezing ritual was better than nothing. It was effort. It was care. It was a way to not give up entirely. You step away from the water's edge. Your boots leave prints in the frost. And you wonder, did it feel the same to them? That moment of cold water against tired skin. The sting. The sudden alertness. The feeling, however brief, of washing the day away. Probably. You glance once more at the river. It glides silently past, carrying secrets, carrying soap, carrying everything we'd rather forget. And you walk on. You leave the river behind. Up the slope now, your breath a little heavier, boots pressing into cold earth. The air grows drier, the wind quieter. And ahead, tucked just beyond a wooden fence, stands a cottage. Smoke rises lazily from the chimney. Warm light spills through the shutters. You step inside without knocking, because tonight you belong to this place, to this story. The cottage is small but not cramped. Low beams, woven rugs. A fire flickers in the hearth, and in its glow you see her, an elderly woman sitting near a low stool, gently stirring a pot of something thick. Not stew. Something more ancient, more intimate. She dips a cloth in the pot and lifts it to her face. Wipes, pats, exhales, then gestures for you to sit. You do, and she begins to speak, slow, steady, with the weight of repetition. Because in the Middle Ages, cleansing wasn't always about removing dirt. Sometimes it was about balance, about energy, about ridding the body of excesses. She takes your hand and rubs it with a paste of vinegar and salt. It tingles. This is what passed for a deep cleanse. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it just made you smell like salad. You glance around. On the shelf, beeswax, mustard seeds, garlic, dried rose petals, and a jar of honey half crystallized. In this room, each item had a use, a purpose. Beeswax bombs for chapped skin, garlic rubbed on wounds, rose petals steeped in oil for scent or mood, and honey, of course, nature's antiseptic. An occasional snack. She wipes your face with a cloth soaked in warm beer. Smells odd, but soft. And she hums while she does it. Some old tune, wordless and slow. Cleansing was often gendered. Men scrubbed with soap and scraped with blades. Women, especially older women, preferred oils, cloths, herbs. A gentler kind of clean. A slower one. You notice a comb near the hearth. Bone handle. Carefully carved teeth. Still warm. Hair was often brushed with ash and lard to remove grease, then braided to keep it from tangling. Some wore linen caps at night. Others oiled their scalps with egg yolk or goose fat, not for beauty, for sanity. She picks up a small jar and dips 2 fingers in, then rubs something that smells like mint and vinegar behind your ears. You shiver. Folk believed that keeping the ears and feet clean helped avoid sickness. There were even cleaning calendars, certain days deemed lucky for bathing or hair washing. Historians still argue how widespread those rituals really were, but the records exist, scrawled in margins, whispered between generations. You look down at your hands, softer now, lighter. The woman nods, then pours warm water into a wooden basin. She gestures again. You understand. Foot washing. You sit, slide off your boots, and lower your feet into the water. It stings, then calms. The kind of pain that tells you something good is happening. Or at least, something is leaving. She wipes your feet with a linen cloth, then places 2 hot stones beside them to hold the warmth. This is care. Real care. Given freely. Ritual, not luxury. You breathe deep. Outside, a rooster stirs. False dawn. Still early. But your body is soft now. Heavy. She hands you a woolen shawl. You thank her and step outside once more. Feet warm. Skin tingling, eyes slow blinking with the comfort of being known. The night isn't over. But something has shifted. You are cleaner. In more ways than one. The road ahead narrows again. It winds between worn stone walls and quiet hedges, leading you away from the cottage and into the heart of the village. The stars overhead are faint, but you don't need them. Your feet know the way now. You pass a tiny chapel, shuttered for the night. A rusted basin hangs near the entrance. You pause. Dip your fingers in the cold water. More ritual than rinse. A nod to the divine, and a reminder that in this world, cleanliness wasn't just physical. It was moral, spiritual. The body mirrored the soul, or so they said. In fact, some sermons of the time spoke directly of filth as a kind of sin. Not metaphorical, literal, as if unwashed skin made your prayers harder to hear. Inside monasteries, cleanliness took on a different rhythm. Monks were expected to wash modestly, quietly, and often alone. A basin, a cloth, a prayer, not for comfort but for control. You turn a corner and catch sight of a small cloister. Stone archways, ivy trailing down like threads of memory. The door is open. Inside, you see a long bench, a basin at each end, and 2 monks in silence, methodically washing their hands and faces. Their movements are practiced, almost meditative. One pours water from a jug. The other dries with a square of linen. Cleanliness for them was obedience, a way to quiet the body so the spirit could rise. You take a step closer. The scent is faint, herbs and old soap, and something chalky like worn stone. One monk nods to you, just once, then returns to his routine. Their robes are simple. Wool. Itchy looking, but clean. They wash before meals, before prayers, sometimes even in the middle of the night, to remind themselves that even sleep could not excuse neglect. Historians still argue how strictly these rituals were enforced. Some claim monasteries were havens of hygiene. Others believe that over time, routine faded into symbolic gesture. You move quietly past them into a side room. Dim, cool. A stack of folded cloths sits near the wall, and next to it a small tub half filled with water and herbs. A single candle burns. You kneel, dip your fingers in. Lavender and thyme rise to meet you. Even here, away from crowds, away from filth, the need to cleanse endures. You notice a wooden hook on the wall. From it hangs a linen shirt, simple, hand-stitched, and patched at the elbows. You touch the fabric. It's stiff but clean. For monks, changing clothes was rare. But when they did, it was an event. Not just hygiene, but humility. Clean robes meant discipline. And each patch told a story of endurance. You rise slowly, leaving the shirt undisturbed. Back outside, the village feels quieter. The wind gentler. As if your time in the cloister has settled something inside you. You walk again. Past shuttered inns, silent forges, and carts sleeping beneath tarps. Ahead, a small wooden sign swings in the breeze. A symbol painted on it, 3 lines curved like steam. The bathhouse again. Full circle. But you don't go in. Not yet. You stand beneath it, looking up at the fading stars. Clean hands, quiet mind, heavy limbs, and the faint scent of time still clinging to your skin. You turn from the bathhouse and follow the stone path that leads out of town. Not far, just enough to feel the stillness settle deeper. Your feet know this route now, soft and steady. Even the birds haven't begun yet. The world holds its breath. Up ahead is a small, low structure. Half dug into the earth, its roof thick with moss. You duck through the narrow doorway, and the scent hits you immediately. Ash, smoke, something bitter and warm. It's the sweating hut. Not quite a sauna, not quite a bath. Something older, earthier, and frankly, a little mysterious. These huts existed in many forms across medieval Europe, built by farmers, villagers, even midwives. A simple space, stones heated in fire, herbs thrown on top. Steam rising in clouds thick enough to disappear inside. You sit on a wooden bench still warm from use. The door creaks shut behind you, and for a moment there is nothing but breath. Your own. The air moves like a living thing, hot, slow, damp. Someone has left a bundle of dried birch branches by the door, used to stimulate the skin, encourage circulation, or just, well, wake you up. You smile. Maybe later. In places where water was scarce or frozen, sweating huts like this were essential. No soap needed, no basin, just heat and time. They were often used in preparation for childbirth, or after illness, or simply when the body felt heavy. You close your eyes. Let your fingers rest on the edge of the bench. The smooth from use. Warm like a memory. Some records describe sweating huts used communally, families, neighbors, all crammed together. Others suggest more private rituals tied to folk healing and whispered prayers. Historians still debate whether these spaces were seen as medical, spiritual, or purely practical. The truth? Probably all three. You take a deep breath. The steam tastes faintly of juniper. Your skin tingles. And for a moment it's easy to believe the stories. That sweat could purge sadness. That steam could lift sickness out through your pores. That heat could soften whatever life had hardened in you. You reach for the ladle. Pour water over the stones. The hiss is sharp, then soothing. The air thickens. Your limbs go slack. A cleansing of a different kind. No scrubbing. No scraping. Just letting go. You remember now how long winters could be. How grime built slowly, then all at once. How washing wasn't a task, but an ordeal. And how this heat, this space, this steam, was sometimes the only answer. Your foot nudges a flat stone near the bench. It's etched with a simple mark. 3 circles in a line. A family crest, maybe, or just a way to say, I was here. You trace it gently with your toe. You wonder who else has sat in this room. Who poured water on these stones? Who left cleaner, or lighter, or simply less alone? Outside, the wind shifts. A low rustle in the trees. Time to go. You rise slowly, feeling your shirt cling to your back, your skin damp but warm. A sheen of sweat, not grime. You open the door, and the night, what's left of it, greets you with cool air and silence. You step into it. The last breath of steam lifts from your shoulders and disappears into the stars. The village is behind you now. You follow a narrow trail through the edge of the forest. Boots soft against damp moss, air crisp and gentle against your cheeks. The trees sway quietly above, tall and thin like watchful sentinels. And somewhere, just beyond the bend, you hear it. A spring, a natural one, untouched, still flowing even after all this time. You duck beneath a low branch, and there it is, a shallow pool of clear water, fed by a steady trickle from the rocks above. The surface glistens faintly in the early light. Your breath catches, because in an age without plumbing, without showers, without plastic bottles or pressure knobs, this was the dream. Springs like this were rare, precious, and often believed to be sacred. Pilgrims traveled for days to reach them. Mothers carried sick children to bathe in them. Even nights, dust-covered and half-ruined from war, stopped to kneel beside them. You step to the edge and kneel. Your fingers skim the surface. It's cold, shockingly so, but clean. You cup some in your hands and bring it to your face. stings your skin, then settles into calm. And you breathe deep. There were stories about springs like this. Healing waters blessed by saints or spirits. Some said they could cure fever. Others believed they washed away more than dirt. Historians still argue whether these beliefs were rooted in truth or hope, but in a world where disease and death walked hand in hand, hope was more than enough. You dip a cloth into the water and press it to your neck. The chill is sharp, but bracing. It wakes something in you, and for a moment you feel ancient, rooted, like you've stepped into the same ritual repeated across 1,000 years. You glance to the side. A small wooden carving sits among the roots, worn but clearly human. Eyes closed, hands clasped. Someone left it here long ago. A prayer, a promise, a thank you. You stay a little longer than you need to. Not because you're dirty, not because you're cold, but because it feels right. Because this too is a kind of clean. A different one. The kind you can't see in a mirror, but you know it when it comes. And as the first light of dawn brushes the treetops, you rise, the shawl still draped over your shoulders, your skin flushed from steam, from water, from wind, your mind quiet, your body tired, but not worn. You walk slowly down the path again, toward the edge of sleep. Your feet are lighter, your breath softer, and behind you, the spring continues to flow, quiet and eternal, like the need to cleanse, like the comfort of warmth, like the promise of waking clean. And now, your journey is ending. Let the warmth linger a little longer on your skin, not from the bathhouse, not from the sweat hut, but from something quieter, something settled. You've wandered through steam and smoke, soap and vinegar, herbs and prayer, and somehow, beneath all the strange traditions, beneath all the debate and discomfort, what remains is care. Not perfect, not always kind, but human. Let your breathing slow now. Let your shoulders grow heavier. The steam has faded. The river is still. The spring runs on in its own time. And you're safe. You're warm. You're clean in the way that only sleep can finish. So close your eyes and let the hush of the medieval night carry you gently into dreams